If the offensive in Ukraine was led by the American army, it would rely on the support of aviation, which would destroy the enemy's fortifications long before sending infantry. Instead, the Ukrainian military suffers from a lack of aviation and insufficient number of armored vehicles and artillery weapons, which leads to higher losses on the battlefield, according to American experts. Because there obviously is no way to Harry Potter you through the minefield. You have to literally go through it, so you will suffer a lot of losses. The experts claim, however, I quote, "The Americans would never have fought this way. They would have carpet-bombed entire minefields and lines of trenches long before sending even one soldier there." End of quote. Maybe those experts just did not notice that the Ukrainians simply do not have such an opportunity in order to effectively counterattack and actually get to the defensive lines that, by the way, have been properly dug and prepared and mined by Russians throughout the whole year. You need to have an advantage in artillery. Currently, however, Russia is much superior to Ukrainian artillery and, of course, in the number of military aircraft on the front line. The plans of NATO allies to increase the production of projectiles to 90,000 per month can significantly help Ukrainian army. So some non-military people claiming to be experts say that it is enough to pierce to go through the first one or two defensive lines and the whole Russian front line will just eventually fall. Is that true? Is that the case?
As I said, in such conditions that we see now in the Ukrainian front, Russians have a superiority in the air and artillery, so Ukrainians, as you quoted, just don't have the opportunity to act like Americans would do, because Americans have a much stronger army in every field, from space to aircraft to artillery and so on. But the question was, should Ukrainian command still order the offensive? The fact is they did. They saw all the disadvantages, but the problem is that war of attrition, if we see it for at least half a year now, it's not going well for the Ukraine. It's, as we said, it's not going well for Russia either, but it's much worse for Ukraine because Russia bombs all the Ukraine territories. The Ukrainians have millions of refugees. Economy is collapsing, so war of attrition not going well for them. So the only other options for them is to at least try to counter offense with the hope that this will bring a strategical change in the front line. For now on, they didn't achieve it, but because of the big reserves they are prepared, they still have a chance to break through. If this Ukrainian offensive will fail, so they coming back to the square one, to a war of attrition, and the question is how West will continue to support them after this. If they try and fail, so this will have some Western leaders maybe will have to do some reassessment how the war is going on. Should they try some negotiations, but now the offensive still did not end, so Ukrainians still have hope. So we will see how it will be, how it will end. But for now on, this is the main problem. The only hope is successful offensive, because if not, it's only a war of attrition, and they definitely do not want that.
You said that the world and the Europe and the world, the collective West, so-called collective West, might reassess the situation and to find a different approach if Ukrainians fail on the battlefield. I mean, this counteroffensive. What do you mean by that? To reassess? I mean, let me reinstate my question. What I wanted to know, if I would say that if the world would provide to General Zaluzhny what he wants and needs, the war in Ukraine will be won already. Am I right?
But this is a difference that we talk at the start of our conversations. Goals of Ukraine and goals of collective West in this war it's not the same thing. We can more or less be sure as that West and the USA doesn't want Ukraine to fail completely, to lose the war, but defeat of Russia, it's a very different thing. If Americans would go to war themselves, they have enough weapons to win this war, but for many reasons they simply don't want to transfer all these weapons to Ukraine. First of all, they need it for themselves for the next war with China, and second of all, they don't see a goal, complete defeat of Russia, because its consequences of this may be not comfortable for the West. Maybe disintegration of Russia, what will be with the nuclear weapons, etc. So maybe some leaders thinking about some meeting in the middle, some negotiations and so on. But the problem is, at least for now, Ukrainians don't want that. They want to get back all the territories from 1991. So there is a gap between what Ukraine wants and what collective West wants. And the only consequences of this is how much weapons they deliver. But we have to say, in many ways, Europe, at least physically, cannot give Ukraine all what they want. The only ones that can, it's USA. But USA don't give all of this mainly for political reasons, not for physical reasons, because as a global player, as they think of the bigger game, what will be with China, what will be with disintegration of Russia, and so on. So they have, their main goal is to maintain this war in the borders of Ukraine, to make it not proliferate to Europe, to NATO, to any other countries. And the consequence of that they give Ukraine only enough to hold, but not enough to win. That, of course, a problem of Ukraine, but they have to deal with them with this, because they were the ones who were attacked. Russia did not attack NATO, did not attack USA. They attacked only Ukraine. West helps, but not as it would help himself, let's say like that.
Okay, I understand that, but you mentioned that like the world and the collective West is afraid of that nuclear weapons to be in the wrong hands after the disintegration of Russia, but I can't really imagine worse hands now in Russia holding a nuclear club. So that reassessment of the situation might be also good for Ukraine, like let's finally help Ukraine win.
Theoretically speaking, yes, but disintegration of Russia, it's one of scenarios. Other scenario, if let's say Ukrainians gain more and more victories in the battlefield, theoretically speaking, it can push Putin into the corner, so he will make use of nuclear weapons because he doesn't have any other choice if he lost a conventional war. So we can think that Biden administration thinks about this scenario too. Maybe they simply don't want to push Putin into corner too hard because he can push the button.